friends, my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. Today's project is a stash buster. I have gone into my own supplies and look at this deliciousness. It is a bead charcuterie. I had so much fun. I started with one of my work trays or project trays, I call them, and I just went into my ceramic bead bin and my tube. I have a bin of cylinder beads. I have a bin full of disc beads, and I've pulled out some gold disc spacer beads, some bead caps, some coated jump rings that are purple enamel, a few little odds and ends here, check glass flowers and discs, and just look at this deliciousness. I love these ceramic beads. These are synthetic pumpkin beads and they have really large holes. Everything has a really large hole, and I have started even making some components out of my disc beads. So the beads where the holes were too small to go through my stringing material, and I'll show you what that is, I have made them into a component that I can add in. And this is also a great way for making beads that are smaller in scale, have more of a statement, and sort of like these little tiny discs on their own would not look great but on their own in this project, but to match the scale of my ceramic flowers and my beads, that's just a little technique that I do, and I'll show you what that is. So if you didn't notice, I have just created a color palette of lime, bright purple, and turquoise, and I just love these together. This is so beautiful, and my intention is to make a piece of jewelry that is like resort wear. It's going to be a really long, really dramatic piece, and I want to say knotted with my Brazilian waxed cord in this turquoise color, but it's going to be a mixed media. It is going to include a beaded chain, some wire, some bead caps, ceramics, check glass, some waxed cord, so kind of that textile element, some enamel coated jump rings for linking things, and I'm gonna do make it really dimensional and unique. I'm not going to do a tassel. I'm going to create like a boho fringe for the drop. So I am going to set this aside now that you have seen what I will be pulling from. And like I said, I went shopping in my own supplies. I have beads organized by color. I have a bin of ceramic beads. I have another organizer that is just disc beads of all color. And I went shopping in my own supplies. So when I edit the video, anything that I know where I got it, and if I think it's still available, I'll link it for you below. I know these are still available. I know these really large wavy disc spacers are. I think these might be. I'll do my best to give you guys some links if it's a project that you really love. But honestly, I hope you'll get inspiration from the design and go shopping in your own supplies. So you'll see, and when I start stringing, but let me just pick up one of these. Most of my beads have really, really large holes. But like I said, I have tricks for the ones that don't. So I've already kind of made a start here. And I literally wasn't even sure if I was going to film this because I was just playing and having fun. But I need to create a focal, and so I just created a little stack of lime and turquoise beads, and then this one is going to go beneath it, and I will connect everything with jump rings. Actually, this has a simple loop, so I could open that simple loop. Those are design decisions that I make as I go along. And I had started to create the final sort of drop, and I decided to stop playing and show you what I'm doing. I've got this really long piece of wire because I want a wire wrapped loop here, but I want to bring the extra wire down and embellish with some seed beads. And what was not in my tray were these beautiful gold 11-0 seed beads, and these are Toho 2mm. And these are perma finish galvanized. The color is called antique gold, but it's actually pretty bright. And I do spend a little extra on the perma finished galvanized for seed beads, especially in a knotted project if I'm going to use them in the knotting, because if the color rubs off, you can't just take out a component and fix it. And then I have these beautiful 6-0 lime green seed beads. They're off to the side. I always pull seed beads when I start a project. And then this is scraps of my turquoise cord from another project. I always take whatever length that I think I'm going to want my necklace or my bracelet, and then double it and sometimes even triple it, because knotting eats up a lot of length. And I love just designing like bead by bead, and I'd never really planned these projects out so much. So I always have, usually I have some left over, which to me is better than running short. And this here was just stuffed inside my spool, and this is going to be my fringe. I do not want this to be a tassel. I want it to be just fringe, you know, just really boho. And let me bring my dish back in. I kind of pulled these little miscellaneous things over here, these purple and lime discs, and this little area here is what I want to do for my add-in beads on my fringy bit. But let's do this first. So I am going to do a wire wrapped loop, and the reason that I chose a wire wrapped loop on this as opposed to a simple loop on this is that these beads are all round, and this can spin, you know, 360 degrees and it looks the same and it's fine. But on a bead like this beautiful check glass coin bead, I want this coin bead to stay facing forward. So a wire wrapped loop allows you to do that final wrap on each end and tuck that wire in, and it's stable. So it's not going to move. When I attach these, it's going to stay facing forward. And I want to do the exact same thing on this one, and I want my loops to be going in the same direction. So I've done a little bit larger loop here because I need to fit 3 cords through this loop. As I said, this is going to be truly mixed media, going from a textile element to a lampwork element to metal spacers to wire, check glass, ceramic glass. It's a turquoise. Several of my beads are dyed turquoise. These are brecciated disc spacers here that I just love, that came from DD Beads. So it is all the things, you guys. This is going to be like a crazy beautiful project. But I'm going to get a hold of this loop and get a hold of my wire at the top of my stack here and just do a 90-degree bend. I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, and I'm going to go down pretty far on the barrel because I want these loops to be just a little bit bigger than I normally do, and bring this wire over the top barrel. I apologize if it's hitting the camera. It's pretty long at this point. Bring that around, rotate to center everything. You can do a little adjusting after it's wrapped as well, but I like to center everything. And then I am going to wrap this right down to my beads, and you'll see why I have so much extra wire. You'll see what my plan is. So can you see that this is still moving? And I really want my lampwork bead to stay facing forward. So this is where a wrapped loop is so good. I'm going to come back around and, you know, make sure that it's stabilized. Now I'm going to embellish further with this wire. Go ahead and tuck it, and just gently tucking it in has stabilized this stack of beads. And before I move on, I'm going to just like zhuzh my disc spacer that's here, and you can take 2 pliers if your loops need to be aligned. Mine don't look too bad, but maybe a little bit. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I know that drives some people crazy. My plan is to bring this wire back down. I'm going to designate this the front, and I'm going to just bring this wire back down. Let me go across my little stack of discs here and bring it around to the back. Straighten my loop. And this lampwork bead just has these really cool grooves on it. So it's really good for laying the wire across the grooves. And honestly, I could just, let me see if I like it with just the wire. It's actually really pretty with just the wire in there. See how it has these little, like, it looks like an old-fashioned washboard. So I'm going to try, try to get two wraps across the front. So that's the back, and I'm going to just try to get 2 wraps here in that little groove. I think I'm better with my fingers at this point, and just bring that across and pick another little groove and come back down to the bottom. Ooh, that's pretty. And I'm just going to get in here and wrap it around. I'm sorry, you guys, I got a phone call and it was a little bit distracting. So this is what it looks like. I just tidied everything up and tucked everything. And I have these jump rings that are coated. I have a little trick for closing them without scraping off the paint finish. I use the leverage of my pliers. So I'm gonna get one side of the jump ring with these pliers, and then my nylon jaw pliers to get this most of the way closed, because if your plier slips off of these jump rings, the enamel will come off and it's just silver underneath. It's not very pretty. And then I'm just using the kind of the leverage of the jump ring and the two pliers to get that closed just perfectly. So that works really well, and I absolutely just love these colorful jump rings, especially with my color palette here. So I'm going to attach this drop to the bottom. And if I didn't mention, I don't think I did because I've been playing with these beads, but this section is not part of my focal. I'm going to do, and I'm sorry you guys, but I've been playing with this design a lot, and a lot of this is in my head. So I'm going to do both sides of my necklace going up mirrored. They're going to be exactly the same. And this was my first component. So I need to make, let me get the beads. I need to make another one of these. And this is going to be my beaded chain part of my necklace. So I'm going to do another purple jump ring here and go up. So this here is my pendant, my focal. And I know I neglected to tell you that because the phone kind of distracted me, but that's where I'm going with that. And I wanted to build the pendant first and get my fringe tied on because it just gives me an idea of alternating my colors up the design. So I'm going to do the same thing here, just attach this focal with this purple jump ring. Just really careful that I'm holding it nice and tight with this hand and that my plier doesn't slip off. I love that snap because then I know I got it closed just perfectly. So that's done, and then let me show you how I do my simple loops. I'm going to be using my one-step looper, and I'm going to be using 4 of these bead caps. And again, because I knew that I was going to do part of my necklace as a beaded chain and part of my necklace on several strands of Brazilian waxed cord, I've looked through my bead cap stash and my disc spacer stash, and I chose everything with a pretty large hole so that as I change my media going up the necklace, I have the option of staying with the same things that I've been using. So I am using 20 gauge wire. I love my soft flex wire. I use that an awful lot. And it comes in all the gauges, and it has an anti-tarnish coating. So I'm just going to take a little piece, and I am using my 2 1/4 millimeter one-step looper. It just is makes things a little bit more fluid. The loop is a little bit bigger, and since I'm connecting with 18 gauge jump rings, that's just going to work a little bit better. And I'm going to get this nice and straight while I'm holding it in the tool. And I do want to close my loops if they didn't close, because I'm not going to open them again. If I were going to open them again to attach them to each other, I wouldn't spend the time to tidy them up. But I am going to attach everything with those purple coated jump rings. So I just did a bead cap, a lime green, a bead cap, one of my synthetic fluted pumpkin beads in turquoise, and repeat the same thing. And the method to this design is that I wanted all of the chunkier things, like these larger beads and my focal, to be centered right in the main center of the necklace. And as I go up, You can see that I've already been playing. I don't know if I'll use these, but I've already been playing. I made a couple of these little components out of the disc spacers, but to get my necklace to go up into smaller elements, you know, so heavier and working its way out into a little bit lighter, thinner beads. So I'm just going to come to this side, and this time I'll use the guide hole on the tool and just make another simple loop. Pull my beads down out of the way. I'll stop closing my tool if I feel like I'm going to be putting any pressure. I don't want to lose beads by putting pressure on them. And I'm going to just tidy up my loops to make sure that they're lined up. So now I can take another one of my purple jump rings. I'm reaching into my little dish and attach this here. So it gives me a starting point. It gives me an idea of what I want to choose next as I work up the necklace. And because these are 18 gauge jump rings, now you can see why I put such a large wire wrapped loop there. So same thing. Just be really careful. I don't want to lose any of these. Perfect. Okay, so that is the start. This is the front. So that's the start, and I'm going to just continue designing up with my beads. I think here I want to do a purple. I'll probably connect these with a gold jump ring. I just will probably switch to a gold. I'm not really sure, but I did make 2 of those components. But the next thing I want to do is take my Brazilian waxed cord. I have, as I said, 3 strands that were left over from something else, and they are 3 different lengths. So again, I'm not making a tassel, I'm creating fringiness. And so I just kind of pulled them so that there's a short, medium, and long on both ends. So I'm going to hold them together like that and run these through this wrapped loop here at the bottom of my pendant, and I'm going to find the middle. So I know I'm out of the camera a little bit, but this is going to be my dramatic fringiness. So I'm going to come right here and just do an overhand knot now that I found the middle. I love my knotting tweezer when I'm doing a knotting project. It helps me to get really consistent knots, knot placement wherever I want them. That's where they go. So there's one, just one overhand knot, and now I'm going to draw these together and do an overhand knot with all 6 cords now. And just pull it through, and then I'll use my knotting tweezer and reach inside that loop and get a hold, gather everything up nice and neat, and where the tip of that tweezer is, when I pull, that's where my knot will land. So like I said, I don't want this to be a tassel, which is why I opted to not do a cone or a bead cap or anything here. I want it to just be a little bit of fringe, and I'm just going to let it hang out. I do want to add beads and knots to my fringe, but I want to leave a lot of the cord showing, a lot of the turquoise color showing, and that just gives me an idea where I want to go with the rest of the necklace. So I'm going to get everything laid out here. Okay, I am back. I took a pause for dinner, and I ended up stepping away from my project last night, so it's the next day, but I started playing with all the things that you saw in my dish, and not only have I worked out a pattern that I love, that I just think is so stunning, but I've also designed a pair of earrings, which I'll show you, and another necklace. This is going to be a shorter necklace to layer with this. And that's what happens to me when I'm having so much fun, when I love the color story. My designing brain just goes like crazy, not only working on this project, but the other one. So as I said to you, I'm going to do both of the sides of my necklace mirrored exactly the same. So as I've been designing this side, I've been taking aside the things and putting them over here so that I make sure I have enough beads for that. And I also had a couple of decisions to make here. So this is going to be the point where I stop with the beaded chain, with making the individual components with the simple loops. And it's going to be the part where I connect and start knotting on my Brazilian waxed cord. So I have this gorgeous little set that I just got with a whole bunch of different glue-on end caps. Let me show it to you. It's so awesome, and it wasn't really expensive, but it even has these giant ones. It just gave me a lot of ideas for design. Look how beautiful this one is. So I had just gotten this, and in this assortment there were a couple of possibilities. I liked this one, but in the end I decided on this one. So what I did is took my 4 strands of 0.5 millimeter cord and tied a knot and put some E6000 glue and push that down inside there. And now from here I have to decide if I want to go ahead and just have my beads landing right on top, or if I want to do another knot here. With the cording projects, the knots become a spacer bead, and my cord is matched so perfectly that seeing it, seeing a little bit of it is a great thing. So I think I am going to tie a knot here, but I'm going to use a purple jump ring and attach this right here. So let me just clean up. This is for the other side. Let me just put a couple of things away. And I love these. I cut these open. I can't remember where I got these rings. They are check glass, opaque, turquoise rings. I cannot remember where I got them. It might be from Lima Beads. I've had them for a while, but I just love making like a little chain out of these. So that's what you see here. The donut beads with a coated purple jump ring connecting everything. So I just love those. I'll set those aside because I definitely want to save those for another project. And I think that's all I'm going to do. I just love how I am combining rounds and circles and squares and tubular elements. And I just love the shapes and the color in this piece. It's just wonderful. So I am going to just pull these beads back and go ahead and put an overhand knot in here. I was literally just playing with, patterns and just kind of trying to get an idea what I want to do. So I'm going to reach right here and get a hold right where I want my knot to land. That's where a knotting tweezer can really help you, and pull. So the other thing is I am working with 4 strands of Brazilian wax cord here. It's 0.5 millimeter. I did not have this color in the 1 millimeter, or I probably would have gone up to that size, but I didn't have it. So I just decided to do 4 strands, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And I think I'm going to let a little bit of this show in between my beading, not much, but a little bit. So that's what I have so far, and I'm going to come right here and do another overhand knot. And same thing with my knotting tweezer, reach inside the loop, and right where I want my knot to land, that's where I pull, and my knot is right exactly where I want it to be. And then you can lock it into place. So that is just gorgeous, and I'm ready to attach right here. So my purple jump ring. I have to share something else with you guys, because if you like this project, I'm going to give you a heads up about something. I'm going to do my best to explain it. Let me close this and I'll show you. If you like this project and you want to attempt it, almost everything in it is pattern play and really easy connecting. Simple loops and wire wrap loops and knots, overhand knots. It's pretty easy, but the trick to a piece like this, let me see if I can lay it flat and show you what I mean here. The orientation of your loops matters for the piece to hang right. So these don't matter so much because they are 360 beads. They're just rounds. But when I get to my rings that I want to be facing forward. In other words, I don't want this ring to sit like this when this necklace is on my neck. I want it to lay flat against the body. So that means that these jump rings are going to be going perpendicular to my mat. So that means my next component that's a square, again, I want this square component to be laying flat like that against my body. I don't want it to end up being perpendicular on my body. So these rings have to be, your rings have to change direction. Your orientation matters. So my next purple jump ring is going perpendicular. And when you lay it flat, you can see I want this little ceramic bead to also be flat or horizontal to my mat. And then when I come up to this section, I want my O beads or my donut beads to also be laying flat, and I want my purple jump rings to be the perpendicular connection. So when you're making a piece like that, take your time, lay it out, and pay attention so that if you need to change the direction of a loop or add in a jump ring, you see that, and it makes your piece lay really nicely on the body. So this on the mat isn't laying the way that it will because the jump rings are touching the mat, but I have worked out my orientation so that my circles and my squares will be, flat against the body. So I just thought I'd give you a heads up. And the same thing for the pendant portion. I want my check glass coin bead and my lamp work bead. I don't want it to be like this on the body. I want these beads to be facing forward. So if you love this project, maybe you hate this colorway, but you want to do something similar in your favorite colors, you'll be successful. That's a tip for that. So I am going to keep going. And again, I'm just looking at my color story here of turquoise, lime green, and purple. And so the next logical color is going to be something purple. And I really love these ceramic flowers that I found. I've gotten my threads a little tangled up here. So that's going to be next. And I'm going to flank this with a little bit of gold. I was playing with doing a turquoise tube underneath and then a gold. So, and this is a little bit of a bead puzzle. 4.5 millimeter strands fit through this particular bead. The 4 of them will also fit through my disc spacer, but I do have a couple of beads I want to use in here and it doesn't work. So I'll show you, I have a really cool technique for making it work and even adding in some unexpected embellishments. So I'll show you that. But my ceramic flowers and ceramic beads typically do have a really large hole. So on these, all 4 strands just easily goes through. I don't want to struggle with the stringing process on this because it makes the experience of creating not fun when the whole project is a pain. So I really try to make good design decisions and take my time about the next bead, the next color, but also it fitting. I have one little fiber that does not want to go in. I don't think I've said, if you're brand new here and you've never seen a Brazilian waxed cord project, you can stiffen the ends of your cord, but this has a light coating of wax. So if you just pinch and twist, you get like a really pointy end. And, as long as it fits through your bead, it makes a really nice stringing experience. But sometimes you need to pause and pinch and twist because the fibers do kind of want to unravel as you string. It must be this bead because my other one went through so easily. Try another bead. Yeah, it was that bead had something in the hole. And so, you also, as you're creating your patterns, I bring mine down and I really take my time and I look at, before I tie this knot and commit to that being my next section, I just take my time and I do like it. So if I like it, then I do my overhand knot and I reach inside and repeat the same thing. And then here in this little space, I'm going to let a little bit of my cord show. So I'm going to do an overhand knot, and I'm going to reach inside at the space that I want. Since there's 4 of them, it's nice and chunky, so I think I'm just going to leave a little space like that. The color of the cord and the textile texture is just so wonderful. And then I think up next I'm due for a green, but I need a spacer bead for that. So maybe another one of these discs with the large holes. I think that I can link these large hole disc spacers. I've had them for a while, but I think I remember where I got them and when I ordered them. So as I said earlier, if you like this project and you'd like to collect some of these elements, I'll do my best when I edit to put the links for you. Okay, this side is almost going to be done. I'm going to leave a little blank space here again. And I just eyeball this usually when I'm leaving blank spaces. But you can pull your knot, and if it's more than you want, don't tighten the knot down until you have it just right. That's pretty good. I feel like on this type of a piece, that doesn't, those little discrepancies don't show so much. So I love this elongated check glass bicone, but I am pretty sure that all 4 of these strands are not going to fit through. I might get 3 through. Let's see. 2 go in for sure. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get any more than that. So let me show you what I'm going to do with these, because I really love these. I'm going to pull this down. Just pull this down to my last knot. Okay, and then these 2, you could just leave them plain and let them hug the outside and tie a knot. But I am going to feed on some seed beads. And I think I've been using these in the rings. These are 11/0. I could go up to 8/0, but let me see how well these go on. Like I said, I don't want to struggle stringing, so they're not terrible. And you could do as much or as little of this type of thing as you want. If you find this tedious, don't do it, or go up to a bigger seed bead. And sometimes I don't fill the whole thread. And I'm going to do 2. I'm going to do both of the ones that are going to hang out on the outside of this bead, this check glass bead. And I don't mind this. To me, this is really relaxing, and it's, I don't have to do that much. I'm going to embellish this one bead. What have I got here? 3, 6. Okay, so I've got 10 seed beads strung, and I'm going to just let them hang out on the side and do another overhand knot right here, and reach inside and just get a hold of all 4 threads again, gather everything up and pull. I love that. It's just such a cool little technique. It adds texture. It adds a little pop of gold down the side of that bead. It's so pretty. It's so cool. It's actually a good thing that all 4 strands didn't fit through. Okay, I think I'm going to end up doing just one more bead on this side, but I'll do that off camera. I just wanted to show you a couple of the techniques that were used here. So this tile bead, for one thing, this is on a piece of 20 gauge wire. It's a component, and I'm going to use my 1-step looper, and as I told you early on, the 2 1/4 millimeter size. So I'm just going to put my wire in just a little past the back jaw, close the tool, it makes my loop, and then while it's in the tool and I'm holding on to it, I get my wire nice and straight and smooth, warm, straighten, and I'm going to pull this down so that I can see that loop is centered on the wire, and that's what it looks like. And now for this one, I used one of these really malleable bead caps. So I fed that on first, and then my tile bead. And I'm going to just use the leverage of the bead and just push this down and just use my fingers. These are really malleable, and just mold it around the tile bead. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the top and just kind of line it up so that that bead cap is right on the top of the bead. And I'll go ahead and do my simple loop in this end, and then I have another little trick for kind of making this bead cap hug this square bead. Also, if you're using the one-step looper, if you can get your wire against this back plate, you get a better loop as opposed to it being out here toward the end. I gotta get a better grip before I close it. And then I just like slowly close the tool, and I can see that it's kind of flipping a little bit, so I'm gonna push it back in so that I am really staying against the back plate. And I'm not closing all the way here because I don't want to put any stress on my bead. I'll pull my bead down out of the way as I close. And I get really good loops with this tool doing it that way. And I don't mind having to come back in and tidy up a loop. It doesn't bother me. I make 30 to 50 pieces of jewelry a week. And so like that really saves my hand from all the twisting when I'm making, because I do make a lot of simple loops, and making beaded chains is one of my favorite jewelry styles. So I do a lot of that. But now this is a little bit sharp. So you can do a lot of this with your finger, but I like my nylon jaw plier. I can snuggle this bead cap, all those little areas where it might be sticking up a little bit. I use my nylon jaw pliers and just push everything in both sides. Okay, so that's how I did that little component. Is there anything else I need to show you? This was really straightforward. For the earrings, I did these, and you know what? I'm gonna pause and finish this side off camera, but before I do that, I will show you what I did to make these rings. So this is going to be my earring. Again, I'm just alternating all my colors. So on the earring, I did not put an ear wire, and I had these lime green. They're part of the collection. And I used my diamond cut gold filled jump rings here for certain transitions because I wanted to keep alternating my colors. So the purple jump rings would have really gotten lost here. So this does not have an ear wire because it doesn't matter which side, but I can thread this onto my interchangeable lever back ear wires, and I have this beautiful like hoop earring that's colorful and elegant. And I'll show you how I did these, and I won't lie, the disc beads making these rings, I do these component rings in a lot of different ways, but the disc beads are a little challenging for the crimping, but as you can see, I've been able to do it. So I'm just using scraps of my 49 strand soft flex bead stringing wire, and I have 12 of these little brecciated discs, and I'm gonna string a disc, an 11-0 seed bead, a disc, and 11-0 seed bead till I have them all on this little scrap of wire. But the last, I'll show you, it's hard to explain, but I'm going to leave off the seed bead for the last because my number 2 gold filled soft flex crimp tube is going to mimic the last seed bead, and you get this infinity ring. You literally can't tell where I crimped. You can't find it, like where there's a seed bead and where that crimp tube is. It's magical. And so I'm using the magical crimping plier for that. and it just is a really like amazing look. I love doing it. Okay, so that's my last one, and this is just a scrap. So that's what it looks like. My 12 discs are separated by an 11-0 seed bead, and the last one I leave it off because that's where my number 2 crimp tube is going to go. So I'm going to put that on one end, and then I'm going to take the other end and feed it through the tube in the opposite direction and pull. And so you get this beautiful little ring, and a number 2 crimp tube is 2 millimeter, which is about the size of an 11-0 seed bead. So when that is crimped into a little bead, it is almost indistinguishable from the seed beads. So as I said, with disc beads, this is a little more challenging than it is with like seed beads or semi-precious micro-faceted gemstone beads. But you just get in there, you will separate. Like right now I have this ring nice and tight. To get my tool in there, I am going to have to separate them a little bit. I want to make sure that I am right in the middle of the divot, and then I'm going to give it a final pull as tight as I can before I close down. Opposite direction. And then you're just going to take your ring and mold that into a little tiny bead. Okay, and then it loosens up a little bit, but I'm going to get in here as close as I can and snip those wires just as close as I can. And then when you put it, you know, when you let everything go, it just looks great. It's just perfect. And so that's what I did for my earring, and I used my gold-filled diamond cut jump rings, and then close this, and then the lime green ones are the 18 gauge, just like the purple ones, and they are a little challenging to close, so come in here and do the same thing. That's the second little earring, and that's how I did all of these rings that are in my project. So I have to decide. I just used a scrap of wire to make another bead pattern, and I just have to pull out of the camera and check my length here and see if I actually want to do another bead pattern or tie off. And I'm going to catch up with this side, make it match this side, and I'll be back. It'll just be a second for you. Okay, you guys, the problem with my long necklaces is that they don't fit on the beading mat under the camera lens, but I'm going to do my best to show you that both sides are the same. I finished both sides, and I just love it. I did decide to add in this extra little beading pattern. It is super long, but my plan for this is to wear it like, I have really long bathing suit cover-ups that are almost like maxi dresses, but also with a long duster. And this is going to be a pop over the head necklace. So I just took one of my leftover beads that had a large enough hole to hold 8 strands of my 0.5 millimeter. Now, if you don't have a bead left over from this, you can always just tie a knot, or you could do the same thing where you glue a knot into a glue-on cord end and then do a regular clasp if you want to. But a clasp is, for me, just not necessary because it's so long. So what I did is put 4 of the cords going through my bead this way and 4 going this way, and I'm just going to pull it down, and so that's the center behind the neck. And now I just have to do some creative knotting, which for me is going to be separating 2 cords. You could do an overhand knot here right on top, but I'm going to separate 2 of these cords and wrap around my last knot at the bead, if that makes sense. And I'm going to just do a few knots like this, kind of wrapped around. Pull this tight before I do it. And like I said, there's other ways to finish this, but I'm going to finish with knots. And I think, since I've already started working on my fringe at the other end, I think I'm also going to create some fringe on these little ends. So I'm just going to do that. Just get a couple of overhand knots, just kind of wrapping around. I'll do it a few times until I'm happy with the chunkiness. And then what I like to do is pull everything together again and then do another overhand knot with all 4 of them. I mean, you could also do a barrel knot, like a sliding knot back here doing it this way, but like I said, it's just not necessary because my piece is so long it just goes right over my head. So now I can string some beads on here and do some fringe, and I'm going to come to this side and just pull everything tight and do the same thing. Separate my 2 cords, wrap around my main cord that I'm knotting from, and just get a couple of overhand knots. You can also put some beader's glue like Beadalon or GS Hypo Cement, but I don't really find it's necessary, but if it makes you feel better, you can totally do that. And I think it's going to be really secure when I pull everything together, all 4 again, and then do another really large overhand knot. Just grab everything right where I want my last knot to land and pull, and I feel pretty secure about it. But like I said, you know, feel good about your piece if you like to glue. A lot of times I do the gluing. So I can go ahead and trim some of this excess away because I'm going to do some fringiness here, but I definitely don't want all of that hanging down the back of my neck. And then these pieces are perfect for earrings. They're perfect for, like on this bracelet, I took scraps of my cord and I tied it onto what I was working on to make a seed bead bow in this bracelet. So scraps are great for that, and I just fold them up and I put them back inside my tube. So I don't waste anything. It's knotting does eat up a lot of length, and this is such a creative process for me. I never know how much I'm going to need, and I'd rather have a little extra like that than run short. So I'm going to string some beads on here, but what you see out here is for my fringe. So let me get down here where I'm working. This is the front, and show you. I've already started working on my fringe, and you can do a knot above and below like we've been doing here, but this is always going to hang like this. So on a lot of these, I will only do a knot at the base, and I want a lot of my waxed cord to show. So I just kind of started in the middle, and I'm going to lay this out here so you can see that I don't want a line of beads. I'm trying to stagger my stacks, if that makes sense, and my colors, continuing like with all the different colors in the piece. So this is what I have to work with, and also these are my smaller ones. Oh, and before I do that, I could not leave these earrings alone. I went into my little stash of enamel jump rings and findings, and I found that I had literally had 2 turquoise jump rings, and I went ahead and added a couple more. So all of my colors in my necklace are now represented in my earrings. So, and I can put these on my interchangeable lever back ear wires, which I really love to do, especially with an earring that I probably won't wear a lot. Then I can take it off. But I actually got some new earrings, so I may go in my earring ear wire stash. I may go in and change that, but for now, you know, I don't know where to put them. For now, that's the way that is. So let me show you. Let me just kind of lay this out and show you how I'm going to handle my fringe. And honestly, you could just leave the fringe, you know, just plain, but I want to add a few beads. So I'm going to go to green now. Let's see, my green is going to be come down here with the green. I don't want this to be too full, but I do want to have a little bit of weight on my fringiness. And you can also use your knotting tweezer here to place these knots, like I just did not do. Pack this knot down and not get lazy with my knotting tweezer. you can do the same thing. Make your overhand knot. It's a little far down from where I want it to be. And you can reach inside your loop and get a hold of your cord and pull, just like we did in the necklace. And depending, like so many of these beads had really large holes. So if I feel like I feel like this one needs another knot to make it chunky so that bead doesn't slide down. And that's also where the knotting tweezer can help you. You don't have to have it. You can kind of pull it with your fingers, but you can also reach inside and grab the knot. I have this one, so I won't do it on this one, but that just makes it a little bit thicker. So my bead is going to stay right there. So let me grab another strand here, and let's see. I was debating about these flowers, maybe putting them at the end. I haven't decided. I do have a few flowers in my piece, but these are from my bead soup. So as I work on this, I'll see how I feel about it. But I had a few of these little glass green discs, and I think I'm going to do a little stack of those with an 11/0 seed bead in between. And I'm just going to continue this way, kind of filling up the fringe to the level that I like, till I'm happy with the look and the weight. I also like to work in odd numbers, so 3 little discs there, or 5 or 7. When I'm doing something like this, the odd numbers is really pleasing. So yeah, I'm going to come right about there and do a knot. I only need a single one when it's an 11/0 seed bead. Okay, I am finished with this piece. I finished the back like this. I just put 5 seed beads on each of my 8 strands and tied a double knot at the end, and used my knotting tweezer to separate the fibers for a little fringiness at the back of the neck. Now I did just glue these glue-on cord ends right at the beginning of filming, so I don't want to pick this up now that I have all this weight, because before I wear this or put any stress on these, I want to let them sit up overnight, at least 24 hours. But this is so beautiful. I'm having to restrain myself because I really want to play with it. And then for my fringiness, that is also done. And I did get that little bit of weight that I wanted, but I do want to leave a lot of empty cord. I wanted to see the turquoise color of my waxed cord. And so what I did is at the end of where I finished my final little knot, I did a double, and then I just took my knotting tweezer and just separated the fibers at the end of every single knot, just for a little extra fringiness. And I just love it. I think it is so beautiful. I'm thrilled with the way that it turned out. I did a similar design to this a few weeks ago, and I gave it away to somebody. I was wearing it and she loved it, and I took it off and gave it to her, and that was fine. But I love this, and I love making my own resort wear. I love making my own spring and summer resort wear. And like I said, I can totally see this with a long maxi dress, or I have a really long, almost ankle length bathing suit cover-ups, which if you're even hanging out on your own patio, this is so easy on and off, just pop it over your head. So it's super long, super difficult to see on my mat, but I will put some pictures up of these fun earrings and this. And I'm going to just remind everybody, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, it would be really appreciated, and tap the bell notification, because I had pulled out so many supplies when I started this project. And again, as I said at the outset of the video, I went shopping in my own supplies and just pulled together things that I love, things I've purchased with my own money, or even a few leftover things, and chose a color story and just stuck with the the turquoise, purple, and lime green, and it's just so happy. But I am going to come back and do a shorter necklace that could be layered with this, or when I travel, like if I even do a beach vacation, even if it's a car trip, I like to pack in a color story. So everything in my suitcase is interchangeable. So if I have a longer necklace and a shorter necklace in the same color palette, that could be great for like a beach weekend. So I am going to put some pictures up at the end. I thank you so much for watching. Check the description box if you're looking for anything, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao, friends.